Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy B, and today I wanted to touch on this topic of free-to-play kingdoms. This was something that I saw posted on the official COD Discord. You can see here that Bad Dog or Big Dazar Zabro, sure I'll get a correction on that possibly, states a private COD server completely free-to-play only would probably be dope. Now, this is interesting because we've touched on this before, on this idea of, well, what if they did make free-to-play servers? Because we know that basically every kingdom right now in the game is set up, right, essentially to kind of be pay to win, if you will, where you can spend money on any kingdom, any server, within games that are of this genre. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be Infinity Kingdom, Rise of Kingdoms, Game of War, Art of Conquest, Lords Mobile, State of Survival, you name it, right? I have never seen a kingdom builder game that in even just one kingdom doesn't allow for you to spend any money. So this idea of what if we had a kingdom or however many that allowed for you to be free to play, it's very intriguing. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. So as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. Thanks. So if we were to go in game and I think to myself, okay, well, what if, there was a free to play kingdom of some sort? First and foremost, how would that work? Because you have to kind of figure out the logistics of this, right? In that, well, number one, in a free to play kingdom, obviously, I think the most obvious thing goes right into how you set the kingdom up right away, which is that you just can't spend any money. So if that's the case, okay, what's the frequency at which you spawn these? Because you have to look at it from a business standpoint as well. You can't just populate, 10 free-to-play kingdoms in a row. You probably couldn't do like 1 out of every 2, maybe not even 1 out of every 5. 1 out of every 10 maybe seems like you're getting closer to something because you have to think about there's got to be some revenue generated. However, it's also about appealing and appeasing to the free-to-play players. Because I can guarantee you right now, if they ever made just a free-to-play kingdom in the game, I'll just say this. If CallofDragons ever just said, look, we're going to test this out, even if they said, look, we'll do 1 free-to-play kingdom every 1,000 servers. Just as an example, like a very conservative example. You could already arguably say I believe, without this being a stretch, that CallofDragons is the only true free-to-play kingdom builder that has ever existed on the market. And they could promote themselves as such. Why? Because it would technically be true. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the most free-to-play friendly, but they could make that argument. They could easily start putting that into all their ads, even if it was just one kingdom they put out. Now, yes, not to say like it's anything deceptive with the marketing, because it would be true. But now, what do I think? So for me, I could see them doing something like maybe 1 out of every 50 to maybe 100 servers. Somewhere around there, I think, is like an okay sweet spot. Right, where each of those kingdoms, right, so if it's every 50 or 100, maybe somewhere in between there, 50, 75, 100, you get a free-to-play kingdom. And if you want to start off super conservative, do 1 out of every 100. 1 out of every 100 kingdoms is going to be a free-to-play kingdom. So that way, it's like you get 10 of those per every 1,000 servers. It's not that frequent. If you're thinking about it, logically, that's like 1 every 100 days, maybe 125, 150 days, if you're factoring in. So, I mean, it's right, because you're kind of averaging at like 1 day plus to 1.5 days, give or take, on when a new kingdom is being upped. So that's why I say somewhere between 50 and 100. Because at that point, you're probably looking at somewhere between 75 and 150 days on when you would get to experience another free-to-play kingdom coming up, and then people that would be waiting for a free-to-play kingdom to get spawned. So that, for me, is what I think would be an okay interval, somewhere between there. So that'd be the second point, right? First point is that obviously you can't spend any money in the kingdom. That just goes without saying. Number 3, then you have to consider, Okay, well, how do you set up, right? Now, how do you set them up for the KVKs? Logically, you're not going to put them into a different KVK group, right? You would put them into the same one. And people would need to understand that when you're going into KVKs, you're going to have a more realistic expectation, right? So there's going to be some give and take here. It's not like you're just going to get the best of both worlds. But I do think that after some time, you would be able to have the free to play kingdom. I think it would be, and this maybe gets into point 4. I'll touch on that in a moment. But I think with point 3, you just have to set appropriate expectations in knowing that you're probably going to compete with like de-seeded kingdoms, right? And maybe not even right away, right? It's probably going to take some time. You're probably going to have to be into SOS 7, 8, maybe 9, 10 seasons deep before you potentially get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I can compete with some de-seeded kingdoms. I think that to me is realistic. Now, if they over time introduce 4 or 6 free-to-play kingdoms and they're all the same, then yes, at that point you could maybe have an opportunity where it's like, okay, you have 4 to 6 to 8 healthy free-to-play kingdoms. They've all made it to the 4th season for Season of Strife, and now there's the opportunity to pair them together. I do not think that would be wrong. I think that would be cool to see, right? Free-to-play kingdoms going up against each other, even if it was like an opportunity every other season. Not saying it has to be every season, right? But that would be cool. And then I think point 4 for me is I think it would be a phenomenal, and when I say phenomenal, I really truly mean that. I think it would be a phenomenal case study just to research the kingdom, to see what like the true growth rate is of a kingdom, of the players there, and how that looks season to season. Because I think that gives you your bare minimum. It gives you the most accurate timelines and the highest sample size for people on what the true progression rate is in all areas of the game. So like you need to get a foundation, you need to get a baseline. Here it is. This is your vanilla baseline for everything. How long it takes to get to your tier 5 units unlocked, how long it takes to get to your to CH25, how long it takes to get all your buildings to CH25, how long it takes to get how many legendaries are you going to be able to have maxed by the time season 1, season 2, season 3, once you get to SOS, like how far along are you? Artifacts, war pets, all that stuff. This is like, I just think it would be, because you can still do it, but it takes a lot of work. Take this from someone who is already doing some of this work. And I think the only person who's doing this, because I enjoy it. Like, it's fascinating to me. I love seeing what the natural rate of progression and growth is for people that don't spend any money, because it's your ultimate baseline of how long it takes to get to certain places within the game, to hit milestones and goals, etc. So for me, that's how I would look at, okay, well, how do you integrate them into the KVKs? I think, and then, like I said, point 4 is, I think it would be a phenomenal case study. I think it would be so interesting just to research the kingdom. And then I think 5 would be, for me, I think they would be a trendsetter. I think that's the ultimate thing for me, is that Call of Dragons would be setting, I think, a great precedent, or at least an interesting one. And they would be able to claim that their game is the only true free-to-play game that offers free-to-play players the ultimate experience. And that, maybe that's a better way to word it, right? We are the only kingdom builder on the market, the only 4X strategy game on the market that is able to offer free-to-play players the ultimate experience, which is playing in a completely free-to-play kingdom. Think about how many more players would gravitate towards this game, and then how many of those potential free-to-plays may consider spending money. It's not to say that I think there would be a high percentage of them. I think the percentage would be low, but I do think you would get some conversions there. And I think from a business standpoint, it would be the ultimate marketing. You would be able to market your game in a way that no other kingdom builder could ever market themselves in, even if you took a very conservative approach and you did like 1 out of every 100 kingdoms, right? Which I don't think is really going to affect your baseline, because if people are really free to play, they're going to be free to play. So you really can only go up from there, right? It's like you can't go less than spending nothing already. So to me, I would love to see something like this into the game. And I will be so curious on, and maybe there's a kingdom builder out there that's already done it. I just don't know of it. I'm only going off my experience in games I'm privy to. So if you know of a game that has done this, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to hear like what your experience was. What is the game? You know, how old is it? Is it new? I'd love to go maybe and look into it. Otherwise, I would love to hear from you, the community. Whether you're free to play or you spend, do you think this would be interesting for the game to test? And if so, why? Why or why not? Do you think it would be good or not good? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.